I listened to Dan, and I remember the words of Gore Vidal. He once said, "Every time I see my friends do well, something in me dies." But I salute you, Dan, for your eloquence. My name is very European, Lembit Opik. It's actually from Estonia. When I first canvassed in Newcastle upon Tyne, where I was a councillor, this woman came to the door and said, "Who's the Labour candidates, Lembit?" And I went, "It's a woman called Hilary Franks." And she really said this. She said, "Hilary Franks? That's a strange name, Lembit." Is she foreign? Well, she wasn't, and nor am I, really. Interestingly enough, just after I lost my seat last year in Oxford Street, this lady came across the street, and you can always tell if someone recognises you, and she said, "Sorry to bother you, didn't you used to be Lembit Opik?" So there we are. I'm going to help the alternative case, and hopefully this is a useful experiment in testing the thoughts, and there'll be plenty of time for questions too. I am the Sir Humphrey. I think that it's right to have a referendum, but to be specific, I think it should be in 2016. I think in the spirit of this hall, you want it now. And really, I think that's the debate that we're having. Why do I take this position? First of all, because I think if we have the debate and the vote at this time, it's obscured by the short-term crisis that we've got. In 2016, if this crisis hasn't been resolved, then there's a very strong case to say that the European project has failed economically. It has still been successful in terms of averting war within the European countries, the Union countries themselves, and also creating a degree of stability. But I personally believe that what we're experiencing now will subvert the debate to something which is more long-term. Mark's already... Well, I'm very happy to have an alternative view, and maybe we can have that conversation, but please hear me out. My objective is also to understand the Liberal Democrat position, and Mark's mentioned that already. Until, I think, yesterday or the day before, and Dan was telling me this as well, the Lib Dems were boasting on the website that 2-1 was the majority in favour of the in-out referendum, not the woolly Tory constitutional referendum. So up till 2 days ago, I would have had to take the opposite position. But ladies and gentlemen, I've been persuaded by the fact that Lib Dems have taken it off the website, that obviously I take the alternative view now. Why is that? All three political parties in this country, the major parties, are very frightened of having the referendum for exactly the reason that I'm putting forward. I have two bits of suggestion for you about how we proceed from here. First of all, if you are determined to have the referendum, I would suggest have a date at the beginning of the next parliamentary session. And you may think that's too far away, but it gives you a very strong opportunity to put your case, and it gives the other side an opportunity to put the case in the same way. A few years ago, I was involved in a referendum programme called Referendum Street, and it was about this issue. And we actually, the yes vote succeeded in convincing the sample of people in North London to actually vote yes. So it's not a foregone conclusion that those people in favour of pulling out would necessarily win, even in the short term. And the second and last point is something which really matters to me. While I don't want to see a referendum at this point, it is conditional. I think that Britain should now freeze the integration of European legislation. I think that it's fair to say the country does not want further integration. If that changes, and if there is a shift in favour of more integration, then I will come back onto this stage and I will argue with you for a referendum, because I think that's not in the spirit of what the people of Britain want.